If you are just joining us right now, we are about to do this. I'm going to give a few more minutes for people to tune in so we can see if you guys have any questions or whatever. So let's take a moment for that. And I want to see if you guys can see me this time. I want to make sure it's all public, right? Hang on just a second. So what we've got is it's if you guys should know by now, but it is a toes to bar double under squat clean workout, and you have to make certain time caps. So you got to do the first 2 rounds in 8 minutes, and then you got to do 1 round every 4 minutes after. What we see is, I just want to tell, for most people, obviously, for the vast majority of people, this is going to be a toes to bar workout, because what we know is that you're not going to get to those heavier bars. You're gonna either struggle with the toes to bar and then run out of time on that, or you're just gonna hit that wall. So for a lot of people, it's just gonna be an 8-minute workout, and there's different pacing strategies here for that. So we're going to talk about that in the overall. We'll go over each movement from a breakdown standpoint. Let me check. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you guys are go ahead and write them in there, and then I'm going to try to see if they show up. The way the software I'm using doesn't always do that. If you guys are watching the recording, too bad. Oh, and one thing I wanted to do real quick was upload a close-up of the whiteboard if I can, but that'll be in the article if you guys are watching this article later on. All right, so what first thing I want to cover is we want to be realistic about the load you can do. So I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, it's 10 pounds under my max. That squat clean is going to be really hard for that many reps, and when you're tired after doing all those toes to bar and double unders. So you need to think about this and say, okay, that second bar, that's going to be tough. And so then it might just be a plan to get you there with a good amount of time so that you can try to get as many reps as you can. If you're close, if that squat clean, that second bar is 70% of your max, you probably have a chance of finishing it as long as you have the engine to get you there. One other thing I want to point out is that the tiebreaker is the last set of double unders. So this is really important because some people might start slowing down the double unders so that they can go right to the bar and go faster, and you don't want to do that, right? So you actually want to get through the toes to bar in the double unders as fast as possible so that you get a good tie break score. So for example, for most people who are kind of the average Joe or Jane, what that means is that you're gonna try to get through the second round of toes to bar and double unders as fast as you can, and then you might have to take a moment before hitting that bar the first time, but at least you got a good tiebreaker score. That doesn't mean you should totally sell out and do huge sets of toes to bar and big sets of double unders, and so you're crushed, and then you fail your first rep, or you only get 2 reps because you're so tired. But you should just keep in mind that when you're doing those double unders, that you need to finish that as fast as possible. So because of the tiebreaker, I'll talk about the pacing for the average folks a little bit later. Let's talk about toes to bar. So again, this is a toes to bar workout, going to be a toes to bar workout for most people. And what that means is that if you mess up the pacing on the toes to bar, then it's going to hammer you on everything else. Making sure that you're using some of these techniques is going to help with that. And I have some diagrams you can see. So first thing is you're going to want to break these up. Toes to bar are one of those movements that if you doing them big sets unbroken, it gets progressively or exponentially harder on you for everything else. And so but just dropping off the bar real quick and then jumping right back up and doing another set, because you're doing less of a negative, it's easier on your grip. It usually means you're going to be able to sustain that pace and be more prepared for the next movement. So for some people that might mean doing the first round you might do a couple big sets, 2 or 3 sets on the first round, but realistically even just doing sets of 5 or doing like 10s and then doing 10 and then 5s, it's going to allow you to go right into the next movement. In fact, you can actually do singles on these. And now I wouldn't recommend doing singles unless you really struggle with toes to bar. But you could actually do singles, and they're not that much faster. We've timed it where we had one person doing singles and we had other people doing bigger sets, and they were both comparable in their toes to bar. The person who did singles finished right around the same time, but then was way more rested going into the next movement. So again, doing small sets, maybe even singles, or maybe finishing the set with singles just to keep moving, and then being able to go right into the double unders, not needing a moment to kind of get organized, is going to be really helpful. The other thing is the fast kick. Now, I call this technique the fast kick because there's two different ways to do toes to bar. We see, I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's a straight leg toes to bar where most people, they don't bend their knees very much, and they leave their legs way out there. Now, the problem with that for most people is that really extends the lever arm. So what happens is your feet are way out there. It's like doing an L sit, and you have to use a lot more strength to get the legs up, versus if you do more of a tuck where you bring your knee up and then you kick, right? So you're going to bring the knees up like a knees to armpit and then flick. And then after you touch your feet to the bar, you tuck them again and bring them back down. And that flicking motion is gonna save you some energy. It's a little bit more efficient. It does work. It does tend to be a little bit faster in the cycle time. And again, over all these large sets, it's going to make the next movements easier, right? So I do recommend the bent knee fast kick on that. Change up the grip. So we don't want you to shred your hands. I'm not a big fan of repeats. This one might be one you want to repeat. And if you get into that, that third round, that fourth round, it's going to be really hard on your hands. So again, we want to protect the hands at all costs. We don't want to get a bad tear this early, especially this early in the open, because we do have 3 more weeks of workouts to do after this one. So what you can do is you can play around the grip. You can be double overhand. You can turn one hand, then you can turn the other hand. Most people can't do this. You could do this. Change the distance of your hand. So if you change up the grip, that's gonna help save your hands, because it changes kind of the contact point and the wear point on your hand. And the last thing is point your toes. And so what I have here is a little diagram of a shoe. And you can do this right now if you want to get up while you're watching the video, or when you're warming up for this toes to bar. If you do some leg swings and you keep your toes dorsiflex back this way, most people think that having your toes back is going to make it easier to hit that bar. And the problem is that you'll feel the wind up in your calf and your hamstring. You feel all that posterior chain wind up. Now, if you take that same leg swing, and you point your toes, what that does is you can feel it. You have a lot less resistance. And so if you don't point your toes and you have the foot dorsiflexed, you're fighting gravity, and you're also fighting your own mobility. So make sure that you're pointing your toes. There's also the point that when again, if your foot's like this and you're trying to reach your toes back, it's easier to miss, right? And then you think, oh well, I've got this length of my foot, it's less distance to go. But at the top of the arc, that's not that hard, because you're all the way up. By pointing your toes, you also have a much larger surface area to hit. So remember, you can hit from the toe, any part of your foot. It's not just the tip of your toe has to touch the bar. Any part of your foot can contact the bar. So by doing that, you're much less likely to get a no rep because your toe slipped over the edge. Bend your knees and flick, and then also point your toes. Double unders, these are just double unders, right? So make sure that your arms are close, that you're using your ankles and your wrists, and you're not jumping. This is one of those things that we've been doing a lot of double under practice, so you guys should be familiar with double unders. We've been doing a lot of drills lately to kind of prepare for a workout like this. And stand tall. One of the things that I like to tell people that to get better at bouncing is to think about flexing your quads. So actually think about pulling your kneecaps up, and that's going to make you bounce more, and in having good posture, and then you'll use more ankles and wrists. And as I mentioned, because of the tie break, go for speed, especially on your last set. So if you know that you're going to be excited to get to that second round and maybe get a couple reps in at that second bar, going for speed and making sure that you finish that tiebreaker fast is going to be good. Don't panic, right? There's definitely a mentality where people can kind of panic, but make sure that if you mess up, just go right back to it. I think a lot of times when people trip up on the jump rope, they stop and they rest because they think they need a break, and it's like, you don't need a break. The rope just hit your feet. So keep going, and don't let it get in your head, and move through it that way. One other thing I'll note is that you guys should warm up your double unders before this workout. Make sure it should be part of your warm up where you do lots of double under practice, because you want to get that rhythm down. I think a lot of people feel like that they only have so many double unders in them per day, And that's not the case. Everybody can do double unders. In fact, warming them up and getting 50 or 100 broken up into sets and everything like that before the workout starts means your timing's going to be down, your positioning's going to be good, and you're going to be better at double unders. Let's talk about squat clean. So this is where people think this is a squat clean workout because of those time breaks. And it's true that if you can nail toes bar double unders and you're going to get to that third, fourth, fifth round, yeah, it becomes the heavy squat clean workout. But for most people, this is just something you got to work through so that you can get to the next round. Small sets. So again, it's kind of like the toes to bar. Linking squat cleans, that lowering of the bar costs you energy, and so you're doing more work. And it might be a little bit faster, but linking 3 or 5 squat cleans and then having to rest for 5 seconds, a lot of times is going to be the same amount of time or slower than just doing fast singles. And then but when you do 5 singles, you're not as tired because you did less work. So doing fast singles or maybe linking a few and then dropping and then going right into the next set is going to be your best bet for most people, especially at that first and that second bar. Obviously, when it gets heavy, it's going to be singles. Avoid no reps. I mean, we always want to avoid no reps, but there's times like on double unders, you might be pushing the pace, or toes to bar, you might be going so fast that you may end up getting a no rep for whatever reason. You're not paying a huge penalty if you get no rep on that, but on these, because they're significantly heavy and because they take a long time, you're gonna get hammered. So just make sure that you're standing all the way up and you're bringing your feet together so that you get credit for that rep. It's the worst when you do a heavy clean and you're tired and then you drop the bar before you stand up. That's one of the most common ways to get no reps. So just make sure that you finish every time before you drop the bar. And when it's really heavy, look at your judge. Tell him, give him a look and tell him to say down or whatever so that you get credit for it. And this year you can get help with the plates. And so that means if you have friends or the judge, they can help you change the plates. And I think that's going to be really good. Now, if you're doing this in a larger, maybe class environment or whatever, you're going to have to do it yourself. And I think I wrote this here. Yeah, plate change right before the next set. So think about this. If you and we saw this in the open announcement, is that one of them was she would finish her heavy set and then change her plates. And I think the problem with that is that's great if you're going to finish this workout for time, but if you're going to need that tiebreaker, that's just adding time to your last set, because remember the tiebreaker is the last set of double unders. So what you want to do is finish your set and then go do your toes to bar. If you had to change it yourself, I might say break up the toes to bar by going and changing, or break up the double unders by going and changing, but don't do that. Wait until you finish your double unders. And this is another reason why you want to go kind of hard on the double unders, because you're going to have to change plates. And so then you change your plates and then you get your reps. But if you have a judge and they can kind of change plates for you, maybe even if you do need a break on some of these things, like you have to take a break, maybe say, hey, go change the plates for me while I get my water or chalk or whatever. But ideally, like I said, you have a friend help you change it. Another thing I wanted to point out is that a power clean into a front squat counts as a rep, right? So you do not have to ride that thing down. So for some people, getting that bar up and then getting into that squat position and then squatting is going to be a better technique. Now, is that going to be fastest? No. Is that ideal? No. But if you are one of those people that you can power clean it really good and then you have to kind of get everything set and organized before you squat, that does count, especially when it's heavy for you. The kind of the average Joe and Jane pacing. For most people, you need to get this. If you're trying to pace this to where you're either you might finish the second bar, or you're just trying to get 1 or 2 or whatever reps on that second squat clean weight, you're going to want to finish those toes to bar in a minute to a minute and a half. So what that means is that you have 25 reps. If you were to do 25 reps in a minute, that's about 1 every 2 seconds. So you want to do 5 reps every 10 seconds, and then you'll finish. Again, that is actually a pretty aggressive pace. So out to about 90 seconds, you should be okay. Then you have about a minute to do double unders. Obviously, the faster the better. And then you want to get through those squat cleans. So the squat cleans, if you do a minute and a half of the toes to bar, and then a minute of double unders, that's going to give you a minute and a half, 2.5 minutes to 4.5 minutes to get through those cleans. If you're behind that, if you're like at 5 or 5.5, 6 minutes, that's fine. You're still going to go to that second round. Remember, this version compared to the last one, we get 8 minutes to get through those two rounds, which means you're more likely to get to that second bar. And so then you'll have about a minute and a half, 2 minutes to get through the cleans. Which that weight, if you plan on doing the next weight, it shouldn't be so hard that you can't do those number of reps. Then you'll, again, about a minute and a half to do the second set of toes to bar, another minute for the double unders, and that's going to give you about 2 minutes to do the second set of cleans. And so if you kind of know that, like I said, if you want to finish that first round right around 4 minutes, if you finish it faster than 4 minutes, great. Even more chances that you're going to break through the 8-minute mark. But if you finish that right around 4 minutes, and then you can try to keep those toes to bar right around a minute, and then the double unders right around a minute or less, then that's going to mean that you're going to be even more likely to break through on that. The last thing I'll wrap up here before I see any more questions is, do you guys have, should you repeat, right? So this is one of those ones that repeats might be a good idea. Now, if you're kind of like that if you're just trying to get through the 8-minute mark, it's 25 toes to bar is a lot, but you're only doing 2 rounds. And those squat cleans are, they're significant, but they're not going to make you crazy sore. So if you're just trying to see how many reps you can get in 8 minutes, then a repeat's not a bad idea. It's not going to totally upset your training. And especially if you were really close to breaking through to the next round. So if you're really close to, if you were just a rep or 3 away from getting to the next round, and you felt like your double unders were really messed up and you paced the toes to bar wrong, okay, that might mean, okay, maybe a repeat is an option. If you your double unders were on point, you went fast on the toes to bar, and you got like 3 cleans, how important is it to get maybe 4 cleans? If it's really important to you and you feel like that's something that you need to have, then yeah, but just remember that, again, we have 3 more weeks to do this, and there's probably a good chance that you'll want to repeat one of the next ones. So then I wouldn't necessarily say repeating's the best idea. But definitely if you're close to breaking through that 8-minute mark, or going from the 12 to the 16s or whatever. So I think that's it, guys. If you guys have any questions, you can shoot them my way. If you have any questions on the recording, post-dated, try to post them and I'll see if I can answer them. I'm going to have a full write-up. I'll have a close-up of the whiteboard. In fact, I think if I do this right, let's see if it works. Boom, I think we got the close-up of the whiteboard. Still kind of hard to see, or I should say blackboard. Still kind of hard to see with the reflections and everything, but again, I'll have a full-size image of this on the website article. So let me know if you guys, again, if you see anything or you have any questions. Good luck, guys. Just remember that this is a toes to bar workout, and make sure you pace the toes to bar. You use some of the techniques I talked about, and don't forget, we got 3 more weeks, so make sure you have fun and don't get hurt. That's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you later.